live and online. It's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
Back and better than ever, live on YouTube. It is Sleepless with Steve on this Wednesday evening, a frigid as all hell Wednesday evening if you live in the Midwest, this Arctic blast. Let me actually get alive. I'm going to play Tom Skilling right now. I got my weather thing open over here. The winter weather advisory we were under is no longer a thing. The rare winter weather advisory where it didn't snow. It is currently 12 degrees with a wind chill feeling like -3. It is God doesn't love you anymore cold in the Midwest. That is exactly what it is. I think, I don't know if that's Tom Mulaney who said that or what, but yeah, it is frigid out there. So start your cars like 6 hours before you want to drive them. That's the kind of weather we are living in. This is weather so damn cold that the defrost doesn't even want to work right. And I still contend with the Olympics. Are the Olympics even still on? I don't even know. I don't even know if they are, but like driving while your windshield hasn't fully defrosted needs to be an Olympic sport. I contend that we've all done it. But moreover, braving the cold, even though it's like 80 in my apartment right now. This is Sleepless with Steve, coming to you live and in living color every Wednesday evening. First show of 2022. Happy New Year to both of you gentlemen. Happy New Year to you, the viewers. And thank you for sticking with us. We're coming up on 2 years in April. We're going to have to do something. I don't know what we're going to do yet for the 2-year anniversary show, 2-year anniversary revival show, but we are going to do something. I just have to mull over what exactly that something is. Dominic Guanzon in the blue polo, Joe Viso rocking a hoodie because it's cold as balls outside. How are you gentlemen doing today?
Go ahead, Dom.
Yeah, I'm doing good. It was yeah, I had to go into work today. I'm actually staying at home for the most, or rather working from home remotely as much as possible because work said, hey, yeah, this COVID thing, not good. So we're gonna stay home until Martin Luther King Day and just reassess from there. And people have been getting sick. So just everyone in general, family, friends, everyone has been getting sick, and it's not fun. Not very fun at all. But thankfully, I'm over the hump. I don't sound as sexy now, but I do feel better. So there's a give and take there, and I will gladly take not hurting when I swallow.
Joe, how are you?
I'm doing good. Wish my company would let me work from home because people at my work are getting sick, and I'm just wearing
Wouldn't it be nice?
Yeah, I'm just wearing 2 masks at my desk. And making sure I pump myself up with, plenty of immune support stuff like vitamin C, vitamin D, and some other supplements too to boost my immune system for the day to just try and combat whatever it is out there, whether it be Omicron or just the normal flu, whatever it may be. I'm just not trying to get it.
That's exactly right. It's tough. It's a tough climate out there. Me and my co-host now on the radio are broadcasting from separate studios, so which isn't fun. And that which really isn't fun, but it's understandable if nothing else. Yeah, and like it's funny too because now I get off work at noon and it's like I come right home and I do not leave the house until like 4:45 the following day. So that is essentially my life. My cats are back to thinking I have absolutely no friends in this world. But we'll move forward, though. We got 2 topics. One I wish we didn't have to do. The other we're reviewing Don't Look Up, the new Netflix movie, the new Adam McKay movie, which I think as of yesterday at least, it's still in the top 10 of Netflix, isn't it? I think it is. I think people are still viewing this movie en masse.
Yes.
Which
and The Rock will like to remind you that Red Notice is still in the top 10 every damn day.
That movie... Here's the thing, the difference, and I don't want to get on that because I haven't seen Red Notice. I don't care to watch it, but like, it's amazing to me because I have not heard, like, I've had office discussions and friends text me about Don't Look Up, even The Power of the Dog, which I still haven't seen yet. Nobody's talking about. I feel like nobody is talking about Red Notice. Nobody. I feel like that movie, for something that is as watched as much as it allegedly is, has no footprint whatsoever. Like we talk about streaming movies not having the staying power. Mm-hmm. This movie, I feel like if people are watching this movie, they must be sleeping it off because I don't hear anybody talking about this thing whatsoever. But Don't Look Up is a different story. Don't Look Up is one of those movies that, like, after you watch it, you kind of feel like you need to have a discussion about it. And that's what we're here to do. And we will get to that in just a few short minutes. But we have to open the show in memoriam, and with a very sad in memoriam, too, nonetheless. Not that an in memoriam is generally very positive, but I think this one hit the collective consciousness of America, at least, in a different way, especially given what it preceded. Betty White passed away on December 31st, and she was 2 weeks out from her 100th birthday, which was already very publicized in the months leading up. 2021 could not exit without one more gut punch on New Year's Eve. And the news dropped like that afternoon.
Yeah.
Like just as you were maybe conceptualizing your evening and what you were going to do, there was something to just really take the wind out of people's sails then and there. TMZ was the first on the case, as they normally are. And I know that like some people want to wait for like, and I'm not saying they're wrong, they want to wait for like family or publicist or agent confirmation and such. TMZ, for all its ethical quandaries as a company, TMZ does not miss with death.
Yeah.
I can't think of one instance where TMZ was wrong with death. TMZ was the first with Kobe Bryant.
And Paul Walker.
And Paul Walker, too. And Paul
TMZ,
Walker.
TMZ is like the Walter Cronkite of celebrity deaths. We got to get it first, and we got to get it right. That was the mantra Walter Cronkite had when talking about JFK's assassination. He was telling all the AP reporters, all of his coworkers on the day of JFK's assassination, we got to get it first, but we got to get it right, gentlemen. Or, however, we got to get it right, and we got to get it first. That's how Walter Cronkite talks. But TMZ, every time they get it right, and it's astounding.
I'm wondering if, like, literally TMZ just has a bunch of people like Jake Gyllenhaal from Nightcrawler, where it's just they just literally set up for celebrities to like have these accidents just so they could be first on the scene. Like, I'm starting to think that now because it's just like, all right, fool me once, whatever, twice, little suspicious, 3 times. Like, you guys were the first ones 3 times in a row.
It's
these big 3.
And these are big people too. These aren't just like, smaller actors. It's Kobe Bryant, it's Paul Walker, it's Betty White, it's household
Chadwick
names.
Boseman. I mean, like, they were the first one on that too. It's like, were you at the hospital? Were you the doctor?
Yeah,
you have to have a department for that.
You have to have something.
R.I.P.D. Like straight up.
R.I.P.D. That's a movie. But yes, Betty White passed away at the age of 99. And you can say a lot of things about Betty White. The one thing you can't say is that she didn't live a full life. This woman has been a beacon of sunshine for decades. She wasn't a big film actress, but she obviously is famous for a lot of TV roles, both recurring and intermittent or one-off. She started acting all the way back in 1945. She was in a short film called Time to Kill, and her first, quasi big movie was the Otto Preminger drama Advise and Consent. That was in 1962. But she's obviously most famous for the Golden Girls, I would probably say. She was the last living Golden Girl for years. Was it B. Arthur was the last one to pass away years ago? I think B. Arthur was the one.
I think so.
Was the last one. Was the last one. My aunt is a diehard Golden Girls fan. And when I say diehard, I mean she's got posters, she's got pillows, she's got shirts, she's got all sorts of stuff that's Golden Girls.
It's a good show.
It is a good show. It is a better program than most of its breed. And a lion's way to that is due to all the charisma and the talent of those women. And Betty White, too, she was also very popular. And I sort of underestimate the popularity of this show just in general. But she was also on that show. It was a more recent sitcom called Hot in Cleveland, which ran for 5 seasons. She was a main role in that. That ran for over almost 130 episodes, if I'm not mistaken. And then she had appearances in Family Guy and The Simpsons and That 70s Show. I think she actually was in a few episodes of That 70s Show. I remember her as a kid. She was in the show Yes Dear, which is a sitcom nobody remembers, I don't think. But she was in a lot of stuff at the end of the day. But she was mainly, as of late, she was more famous, I think, just for being this beacon of sunshine, this ray of positivity, this ray of aging gracefully. And it's always really cool, in my opinion, when celebrities they really don't have, we this is a discussion for another day of whether or not celebrities in some ways are obligated to be role models and such. But like, she was somebody who was very aspirational. And that's a term I very rarely assign to people like celebrities or athletes. Aspirational in a way that like age gracefully, full life, great marriage, no scandals, good friend. And I think the other sad thing is I just was reading this too. I knew about it, but I just read an update on it. Is that on the 17th, I want to think it's the 17th of January, which was going to be her 100th birthday rather. There was a documentary coming out via Fandom Events in theaters called Betty White 100 Years Young, a birthday celebration. I contemplated getting tickets for it about a month ago. I contemplated going out and making the drive and seeing it. And now they just released a statement, the producers of this documentary. It's still going to air on January 17th, but the title's been changed to Betty White, a Celebration. Because, I mean, it was going to take on the role of being an in memoriam sort of documentary now. And her last tweet, I'll say this, I'll wrap up here, throw it over to you guys. She did a People magazine interview that came out, I think, 2 days before her death. And her last tweet was about her excitement for turning 100 years old, aging very well, and just being this sort of cultural icon for which she's known. And she was one of those people that, like, every time her name trended on Twitter, you would worry if the inevitable happened. And unfortunately, on December 31st, that ultimately was true when her name was trending. So it's hard to summarize Betty White, because Betty White transcended the screen and really became, like, in some ways less known. I mean, the Golden Girls, obviously, less known for a lot of her big roles, even though she really was a great actress, but just more known for the person, the human being who she was. And I think our collective hearts broke on December 31st. What say you, Dom?
Yeah. So with Betty White, like, her legacy, I think arguably only Lucille Ball and Joan Rivers are probably, like, between the three of them, massive impact in the world of entertainment and particularly television. Now, I'm not a TV history expert. I respect people who are, because that is a deep history, like, even more so than movies, because you can watch a movie in 2 hours, but TV, like, I don't know how people can watch like 5 seasons of this show and be like, yeah, I'm good. I was like, I know my stuff. It's like, geez Louise, that's like triple the amount of history of film. But anyway, yeah, dude, she's I actually not sure if technically she's a veteran, but she did serve she volunteered for the American Women's Voluntary Services during World War II. Again, I don't know technically if that makes her a veteran or not, but either way, the U.S. Army, was singing their praises about her as well. So it's like, she's no joke. And she hosted Macy's Thanksgiving Parade. Everyone forgets she's a meme. She's been a meme for like the past, 10 to 20 years.
Yeah.
And rightfully so to a degree. I would love to get to a point in my life where I'm just an old meme and I bring everyone joy in their Facebook feeds. But, like, she's the real deal. She was the first lady of game shows. And so many things stating all the way back to the 50s. There are stories that don't even seem true, but they are, about how she brought in like a black tap dancer onto her own, the Betty White talk show, or the Betty White show. And she got crap from the South, of course, but she was like, nah, screw it. I'm gonna bring him on more times just to spite you. And that's a true story. And it's like, damn, she is a entertainment badass, really, right up there with Lucille Ball and Joan Rivers. And of those three, TV queens, it's amazing how far we've come these days as well. And of course, Golden Girls, just a staple of. I think in the past like 5 years, in the past 5 years, the mainstream, at least of the Zoomer generation, has really come around to Golden Girls, and I'm really happy about that. I'm not the biggest Golden Girls fans. I don't think I've even seen like all the episodes or like even half of it, but I know the basic premise, and every time I watch it, it's a good time because it's clever and all those actresses are on freaking point. So, dude, Betty White, just do a whole do a book report on Betty White, kids, and you won't be upset. You'll be a good time.
Joe, what say you to add?
I think Dom summarized it perfectly there. I mean, I was first introduced to Betty White pretty late in my life because the way I was introduced to her was in the movie that a lot of people our generation actually know her from, The Proposal with Sandra Bullock and Ryan Reynolds, where she played I think Sandra Bullock's grandmother or something, or Nana, like something like that. And she killed it in that, and like when I heard, like, my mom was telling me, like, no, that's Betty White, like that's like a very like iconic person in media. That's when I learned about the Golden Girls. That's when I learned about like almost everything else. And just, yeah, Betty White is just such a nice, humble woman, man. Like, just like respect the grind for how long she worked too. It really sucked that, yeah, 2021 on its way out the door. It was like everybody was like, you know what? You had some bad moments, but at least you weren't 2020. And 2020 reached out its hands like, yeah, I'm not. And as it turned its back, it went, bitch, and it ran off. And it was just like, that was practically how this felt, like right at the tail end, especially weeks away from her 100th birthday. Betty White's amazing, and it was so sad to find this out on the last day of 2021 just to close out the year. I'm happy she got to live till 99. That is a full amazing life, and you can go on like People's Magazine and you can read everything she has given advice on living a full, happy life as long as she did. And it'll just honestly make you a lot happier than if you just, imagine like, oh no, like she died at 99 and everything. It is sad, but trust me, this woman had a life, like the greatest lifetime, I think, out of everybody on the planet, I think.
I'm not even, I wasn't even that upset. I mean, it is sad to think about.
Yeah, it's like, oh, damn, like...
Yeah, but I'm not even that upset about it because when I heard the news, Chelsea from the other room said, "Hey, oh my gosh, Betty White died," and I'm there, New Year's Eve. I was like, I even let out a chuckle because like New Year's Eve, she had to go, kind of like to troll us almost, and troll People magazine of all people of all institutions. But it's like, dude, 20 years ago was almost, you're the age of 80, almost 20 years ago. That's incredible, and like, to have the legacy you have, where the last 20 years is just a victory lap.
Yeah. That's what it's been.
Yeah. And it's like, that's awesome to die in your sleep peacefully in your sleep. Oh man, I envy that so much.
The Irish blessing. That's the way to go. I mean, and it would have been, I mean, you wanted to see her make it to 100. I mean, just for the legacy. And
be celebrated, I think.
And be celebrated, because that day would have been extraordinary. I mean, on social media, like, that documentary too. That documentary would have, taken on a greater, sort of relevance too. Not that in memoriam isn't worth, isn't worthy of something like that.
Yeah.
But I understand what you both are saying too. It's a different kind of sadness you feel like, when you read about Kobe Bryant, which was 2 years ago this month, just to remind you.
Jesus.
When you read about Kobe Bryant, or when you read about Chadwick Boseman and the way they died, it's like you can't help but ponder what more they had to give in the world. What more, Paul Walker even too, what more they had to do, what more they had to give. And we'll seg into Don't Look Up here, but I'll end with this too. You know what I was thinking? And this is kind of related again to somebody who just passed, John Madden. I watched that all Madden documentary, that well-publicized Fox documentary, which is pretty good. Tom Rinaldi did it. It's pretty good. You know what it got me thinking? Like, and this is weird, but like, you know what it got me really thinking? Had Chris Farley been alive today, we would have gotten a really good Madden biopic, because that dude was Chris Farley. Chris Farley always lamented kind of privately that he wasn't going to get a John Candy role anytime soon, like a drama role. He would have been an electric Madden. And I kept thinking about Chris Farley watching it. Just this guy's energy and his exuberance and his passion and everything like that.
That makes me upset. That makes you upset that it's not a thing, or will never be a thing.
Honestly, though, he would have been the perfect Madden. The perfect Madden. If he would have lived long enough and they would have made a biopic on him, because it was truly, truly something else to see that. But rest in peace to Betty White. It's a life full lived, and she dons the moniker First Lady of Television for good reason too. We will move forward, however, and talk Adam McKay's Don't Look Up. Now, have we all seen I mean, Adam McKay's been directing for a while. He's directed comedies, but he's as old school Step Brothers. But he's recently kind of pivoted in the last maybe 7 years, I want to say. Big Short came out in 2014, I want to say.
Yeah.
Last 7-8 years, he's pivoted to more politically minded comedy dramas, in so many words. I'm going to assume, have we all seen The Big Short and Vice?
Yeah.
Have we seen both of those?
I've actually not seen Vice, and I don't remember much of The Big Short because I think that was 2015. I'm actually really surprised by that because it's like those movies are like right up my alley. How have I seen all the other Will Ferrell shit he's done, but I haven't seen Big Short and Vice? I don't know. Or like, I think I caught Big Short. It doesn't matter, but I'm just gonna say no, which is astounding. But
you're not
I do know his
missing
rap.
much. You're not missing much with Vice.
Oh, really?
You're not missing much with Vice, at least in my humble opinion. Big Short is good. And Don't Look Up, though. I'm going to start by saying this. It had me very nervous in the beginning. Had me very nervous in the beginning of this movie because in the opening moments of this movie, the head of Planetary Defense Coordination is contacted. And one of those graphics comes up because a character, I think it's Jennifer Lawrence's character, remarks that, like, is that even a real place?
Yeah.
And then immediately on screen it says, the Planetary Defense Coordination Office is a real place.
This is
their logo.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, like it worked for The Big Short because it was also different at the time. It worked for The Big Short. It didn't work for Vice. It takes you out of it. And I was relieved, though. That is, I think memory's fungible. That, I think, is the only real glaring instance where they break the fourth wall in this movie.
That is correct. Which I thought was really weird because, like, yeah, after... I like Vice. I love The Big Short. I think Vice is all right. But, like, The Big Short, as Steve was even saying, like, it fits better in that movie because of the subject matter of it, the stock market crash and everything, and how confusing that is to anybody that really wasn't paying attention to what the hell was happening to them in 08, 09, and with the housing market crash and everything. That's kind of why I like that movie, because when it takes the time to actually stop, break the fourth wall, and be like, here's Margot Robbie in a bathtub to explain to you how this works. See if you can pay attention, and maybe you will because it's Margot Robbie in a bathtub. It's just like, I love that sense of humor with it. But I do agree with you. In Vice, half the time it worked. The other half of the time, it was a big distraction from the story. It really took you out of, like, what the hell was going on.
That almost felt like a joke from Adam McKay, like on a meta level. It's like, hey, this is what this movie is going to be like. No, it's not. It's like he straight up almost just comes out and says it by doing that in the beginning.
The Big Short worked due to the complexity of the subject matter.
Yeah.
Whereas Dick Cheney, I mean, his story, I don't want to say it's not complicated, but his legacy, I mean, we all, most of us lived through that. Now, we lived through the stock, the Great Recession, as I think it's known. We lived through that, but did we understand the complexities of it? That's a different question. Versus Dick Cheney, who's been a public figure since he's held office, or at least, his whole political career. Where I was, and the only thing I'll say too is, like, when Don't Look Up does it, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that is the only instance where there's ever, like, the aid of on-screen text that's, like, glaringly nudging you about, like, what they're giving you, providing context in so many words. I think that is the only scene in the whole movie. And then the only thing is then when it ended, I remember thinking to myself, well, then why the hell did you inexplicably do that? Like, if you're either going to marry yourself to that or not, it's like Adam McKay could not let this one thing go. Like, he had to confirm that the Planetary Defense Coordination Office is indeed an actual coordination, is an actual, headquarter. But it doesn't matter. It's such a blink and you miss it moment to begin with too. But, like, my mind was, here we go again with McKay making Family Guy look linear in how many cutaways we're going to get throughout the course of the next 2 hours. And I will say that, just to open this, and I'll throw it over to Joe, is that Don't Look Up, though, if McKay is going to stick to this sort of politically minded comedy drama formula, that he's been married to for the last couple of years, it at least shows more of a dedication to narrative, especially coming off of Vice. It shows more of a dedication to narrative and world building and character building than I think even The Big Short, because The Big Short, even the movie, those characters were like chess pieces that he kept moving around and do in that, where these characters, they all embody, they're all symbolic of somebody or something or an institution as a whole. We'll get into that later. But he feels like this actually was like an effort of world building, character building, and more so metaphor over satire, in my opinion. What say you about Don't Look Up, Joe?
I will piggyback off of what you're saying right there. I do agree with you for the most part that, yes, this actually is a better step in the right direction, I think, than Vice if he wants to continue doing this, because there are moments in this film that, they parallel our world, but they do it enough. It's satire enough to where, yeah, it could be its own thing, and you can take yourself out of like that, like, well, this will never happen in the real world. Yeah, like that's kind of the point of why it's a satire, guys. Like, the amount of times I've read on the internet, like, this wouldn't happen. It's just like, yeah, that's the point. Like, they're taking a situation that could potentially happen to us and, like, really, running with it like South Park does. Anyways, I do think, yeah, it's a better step from McKay, but I do think the guy got lost a bit when it came to his own world building, because there are moments in this film where certain characters come in and elements of a story, particularly this one actor, I need to look at the character's name, but Peter Ishwal, who's supposed to be kind of like a Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos type character, played by amazing actor Mark Rylance. He comes in, and I just kind of felt like his character didn't get enough either time to really cook on screen and really like develop who he is, as well as this whole like social media thing that he creates that I feel like was thrown into the middle of the movie. They tried playing with it, and then McKay's just like, screw it. Next thing. News anchors in the morning, like GMA and all this other stuff. How do they act? And like, he nails that. And then he's just like, you know who I want to bring into this movie? A Donald Trump Jr. archetype. And it's like, dude, all right, we don't need that in the movie. SNL has got us covered for like the past 2 years already. Like, I'm kind of done with this. No, Jonah Hill, come here. And he comes in and he does this whole shtick, and it's just like, oh, Jesus Christ. And it's like, okay, wait. What if the world's about to end and meme culture just memes the hell out of the world ending? Okay, that's realistic and that's great. There is such a good balance of like, I actually shouldn't say balance. There's just there's a divide of like stuff that really works well. Like when literally the internet memes Leonardo DiCaprio's character, who is an astronomer, to an ALIF astronomer I like to fuck. And I thought that was hilarious. And then there's moments where it's just like, it's too on the nose, and I feel like it's just not working because McKay and, even Jonah Hill and Jennifer Lawrence said there's a lot of ad-libbing on set when they filmed this movie, and that's exactly how I felt with a lot of scenes. And when it came to Meryl Streep's character, who is embodiment, and a lot of people have said it's Trump, but like, I see what McKay was actually really doing here, and he's actually come out and like even interviewed about it. It's kind of an embodiment of all these presidents that we've had recently. The like, the celebrity status that Obama had. The, I think like he compared it to Bush's, compared it to something with George Bush. But yeah, of course Trump is even in there as well. And even Clinton in some ways, that she's kind of embodying all these aspects. But by the end of the movie, it's just straight up Trump at that point. It leaves all that behind. And there's moments where it's like, that stuff's not working. And you have the other stuff where it's like the internet, the GMA parody with Cate Blanchett, and an amazing performance again from Tyler Perry when he's not in his own directed stuff. And it's just like, dude, why do you have like such good material that like, I feel like sometimes you get lost in your own anger about the world, that you lose focus of what you're trying to say in your very own film. Just like I'm losing focus, I think, kind of how I'm ranting here, because McKay even has me confused. Dom, you can take it.
No, I get it. I 100% get it. This is a hurricane of a movie.
Yeah.
And that's how, if you think that's a compliment or a negative, that's
up to you, man.
It's up to you. Yeah. This is, Adam McKay would absolutely be the one to go for the satire of our times, you know, the great comedy of our generation. It makes perfect sense that he'd be the guy to try and do that. And I think, unfortunately, he misses the mark. This, not a bad movie. I had fun with this movie, but where it kind of stands where it will stand in the history of cinema and all that stuff, it reminds me of two movies, actually, similar as to kind of like satires of their times. And that is Idiocracy as well as Doctor Strangelove.
Oh, that's such a good comparison.
Those are good comps.
Of these three movies, they're seeming. I'm sorry, I should start with Strangelove and Idiocracy, right? Seemingly polar opposites, but they do such a fantastic job of perfectly encapsulating the spectrums of satire. Idiocracy is just complete balls to the wall. Everyone is dumb. This is how dumb everything, is, and it's dumb.
I'll just interrupt you and say I'm so glad, as somebody who saw Idiocracy like the week it came to DVD. I'm so glad that movie has gone on to have the staying power.
Yes.
Especially after how badly they botched it. And there's been some stuff that's come out about the release about that movie, about how Terry Crews said they paid all these companies to come out and be in the movie, or these companies paid to be in the movie, and they did not know how they were going to be portrayed. And like they buried it because they didn't want to offend the advertisers. That's what Terry Crews came out and said. He goes, it was studio sabotage because they were so worried about these companies back, you know what I mean? Suing or whatever. So he's like, I think Fox was behind it. Fox wanted to ensure that as few people saw this thing as possible. So it's amazing in a way that Idiocracy has become so well known, and I'm grateful for it because that's one of Mike Judge's best films.
Let me say that Don't Look Up, the best thing that has come out of that movie for me is that I get to talk to people about Doctor Strangelove and Idiocracy. But Idiocracy is that. Just watch the movie and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And then Strangelove it hits the same target and it hits the same message, but that movie is the perfect balance of dry and ridiculous. You've got Peter Sellers in the same actor doing three roles, literally a wheelchair bound evil Nazi scientist, and then the president of the United States acting against himself in the same room while nuclear Armageddon is happening all around them. But it's so dry and so sharp, and so it's like, I mean, this is not controversial at all to say that Doctor Strangelove is clever. But when you look at that movie, it's like, God damn, that's freaking clever, dude. It's like when you look at George Carlin, where it's like, yeah, dude, that's just clever. Maybe you don't even laugh. You're not like belly laughing like you do with some other comedians, but it's like, yeah, that's freaking that's clever, and you kind of get high off your own ass about it, but whatever. Don't Look Up. Don't Look Up lands in the middle. And it's not a crash and burn disaster, but it's not the smoothest ride either.
Yeah.
And Joe, I think you hit it too, where it's like, yeah, it gets lost in itself, which I haven't seen Adam McKay's Big Short or Vice, but I have a feeling this has been an increasing pattern with from those movies. But it gets lost in its own world, in its own message, and I've heard some criticism that you can't make these kinds of movies anymore in a post 2016, post Trump, post 2021. I refute that entirely. There's some great.
Definitely harder. It's definitely harder.
It's harder, but it's very much possible. I'm completely failing to remember some TV shows that have done it wonderfully just in the past few years, but it's definitely possible. But I don't think Don't Look Up is the one it's going for. Is the one to do it, is what I'm saying. So, in terms of being the satire of our times, culturally, it's looking actually to be that way. We'll get into that after the break about how people are receiving this, which I think is actually another great plus to this. But on its own merits, artistically, looking at it, I don't think it quite lands that, and it's quite hard to say. I think Joe hit a lot of the nails there. I guess I'll just kind of redundantly say too that, dude, there's just something about it's the line you toe between being overboard with it like Idiocracy, and then but also pulling back with restraint and being, knowing to actually be somewhat subtle about this, like Strangelove. I don't know. I think it was the Ariana Grande and
Kid Cudi.
And Kid Cudi. I was like, who's Scott Meducci? No. I kept on seeing that in the cast. So I was like, who the frick is that? I thought that was Kid Cudi. And yes, I was right. But I think it was those scenes.
When do we tell you about Sean Combs? When do we tell him who Sean Combs is?
they weren't even. None of this movie was a hot garbage. Let me just say, it sounds like I'm trending towards that, but none of it was. It was always a sense of like, almost there, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, God damn, it's hard to put into words. And I think that's those scenes where they try to get into like, they make fun of celebrities, you know, Kim Kardashian, specifically Grande and Kid Cudi. It's not even their acting, to a degree, yes, but really it's the writing of it all. And it's like, it's that in between. I can't pinpoint any further than that, but it's that in between over the top and subtle that unfortunately permeates the rest of this film. And I think with that, I think we'll go to break. No, I don't know, unless you guys want to. Yeah,
I just want to add on real quick. No, you're right on the head about how I feel about it, and I'd rather McKay do something like this, where like it might be scratching the surface. It's almost at where I think it should be, but not quite because he pulls back in a few places. I'd rather have a film like that than with Vice, where it was just straightforward and like he was just trying to do the same thing again, but it just was not working because of the subject material. And it's like we all knew who Dick Cheney was, as Steve was saying, and everything, that we didn't have to have these like breaks from like the movie to explain something. It's just like we didn't need that with Vice. And I really do like the fact that with Don't Look Up, he is trying to do something else. It really does seem like he's keeping in that same realm of this political satire comedy movie that he's been doing these with his last two films, but he at least tried something different with it, and I appreciate that way more than Vice.
At the risk of, I'll be quick, at the risk of possibly gutting what Adam McKay was trying to do, like the cheating subplot, I think that could have been completely gutted. Just make that one scene where we get it, that this character does this.
Yeah.
To maybe somewhat too much character building.
This movie could have got out quicker than it did.
It really could have. Yeah.
Hey, this movie could have got out far quicker than it did. We will pick up where we left off here in just a couple of short minutes, taking our Zoom sponsored intermission, back to talk about Adam McKay's Don't Look Up, now in theaters and streaming on Netflix. This is Sleepless with Steve. Be back in just a couple of minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Go.
Back and better than ever. Sleepless with Steve, live on YouTube. Oh, we love you, Joe. Pushing the button, sliding the sliders like nobody's business.
Yeah, I pushed the button too early there, and you'll see it when you go into the break.
Oh, all right, cool. Cool. Oh, no obscenities or anything.
No.
Hopefully it's not hashtag cancel Steve. Moreover, however, we are back talking about Don't Look Up. It's on Netflix. Stars a litany of people. Maybe you've heard of Meryl Streep, Jonah Hill, Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence. There's a lot of people in this thing, to say the least. Now, I'm just going to say this. I know there's a lot of political, obviously this movie is really entirely political. And there's a lot of ways we can go with this, just like the movie goes in a lot of different ways. But I want to say this, though. You know what I really appreciate about this movie, kind of on an ancillary level, is just the fact that we don't see Leonardo DiCaprio play unhinged very often.
Yeah.
We do not see Leonardo DiCaprio be as, like, frenzied and as frantic and as like almost nebbish as he is here. And he's almost human here. Like, I mean, there's you're never going to get to the point with Leo, I don't think, where it's like he's not on screen and you're not very cognizant of the fact that he's Leonardo DiCaprio. As great of an actor as he is, he's so ubiquitous and he's so well known. He's one of the most famous actors of all time, or at least of the last 30 years, 20 years, that like you can't escape the fact that you're looking at Leonardo DiCaprio. It's kind of like the same with Will Smith. There's a handful of actors like that, and he's so ubiquitous in the press. But here he's very human in a way that we haven't really seen from him before. And I don't think Adam McKay really had to coach Leonardo DiCaprio of all people. But I do think though that McKay deserves some credit too. He did mine an unusual, unconventional performance out of Leonardo DiCaprio. Yeah. And I also think that he's kind of McKay's stand-in in this movie. He's kind of like this is a bad comp, but like Woody Allen, the male lead in Woody Allen movies is more often than not a reflection of himself. Yeah. Okay. But like, I feel like Leo's character here of Dr. Mindy is very much McKay. Yeah. Is very much McKay wrote that to be his everyman there. Of all the performances here, and I don't think really any are bad in and of themselves. You could say what you want about Ariana Grande, but like it's not really a struggle, I don't think, for her to play a pop star. But I don't think that took a lot of Daniel Day-Lewis, sitting at Lincoln's table for 10 hours mulling over, the contemplative nuances.
She had one of my favorite jokes in the movies where it's just like this movie has like a really long run-on joke with Jennifer Lawrence that's kind of funny, but I really like the setup with Ariana's where it's just like, yeah, I'm here to save like the otters, and then like halfway through the movie she's like, don't care about the otters anymore, just look up.
She's all right here, and we always kind of forget that her roots are in acting too, but she's all right here for what she's asked to do. Tyler Perry, again, you mentioned it earlier, Joe. Tyler Perry, man, I was talking about this with people at work who watch this thing. Man, Tyler Perry is somebody who sat through more Tyler Perry movies than most of the same people probably in your town. Let me tell you, Tyler Perry, when he does other people's stuff, that guy rules. Yeah. He is a good actor. He is a good, charismatic actor. He's done dramas. He's done action movies. He was in Those Who Wish Me Dead earlier last year. He was in that movie, and he could have been in it more. He was in Alex
That's right. We even said we wanted him in more.
Remember that? Those Who Wish Me... I just dawned on me right now. I was like, yeah, he was in Those Who Wish Me Dead for that one scene. He's in Alex Cross, which wasn't a great movie, but he was good in it. He was easily the best part in it. Like, the guy is so good. It's just like when he gets too much of his own hands in the dishes, he really screws up the ingredient. You know what I mean? You just got to watch A Fall from Grace and you'll understand.
Oh, yeah. As J. Jonah Jameson version of Tyler Perry, his variant.
But he's good. Cate Blanchett, I love. And it was a treat to see Cate Blanchett, too, because she was originally supposed to be Lucille Ball in the Being the Ricardos movie as well. But... yeah, I think the acting here is uniformly good, but it really struck me just top to bottom how very good Leo is here, playing a role that is totally miles different from anything we've seen from him, I think, ever.
Yeah, no, I will piggyback off of that. As much as I was giving kind of like, a little gripe towards Jonah Hill, he performs well. I just don't like the material that either he ad-libbed or was actually given. I just thought it was kind of like, this is what we've all joked about when it came to Trump Jr. and just that whole... administration in general. But he plays it fine. Meryl Streep plays it great too. I really did love Leo's character here. I loved how he performed it. I loved the character itself. I love the relationship he had with Cate Blanchett, actually.
Cate Blanchett.
Because, I'm just gonna say it, Cate Blanchett is a very beautiful looking woman, and my God, in this movie is she smoking.
Yes.
But I also love the professor to student bond that he has with Jennifer Lawrence. I think that's great. And Jennifer Lawrence, we haven't seen her a lot recently. She took a break basically from acting. She was like in Mother and then like Red Sparrow and then X-Men. But like even then it was just like those movies were so small. It's weird to say an X-Men movie was so small. But like, just kind of flew under the radar when it came to her performance. It was great to see her again too. And like, again, her performance here reminds me like, oh yeah, no, this is why she can be alongside Leonardo DiCaprio, because like she did win a damn Oscar and she can hold her own in a scene with him from time to time. Chalamet as well. Timothy Chalamet's in this, and I thought his inclusion was actually a lot of fun.
After Dune, that kid does have a personality. Who'd have thought?
I know, right? And, like, he comes in here and he acts as like his 13-year-old self that used to play Xbox Live and everything. And I'm just like, yeah, there he is. That's the Timothy Chalamet I think I know, probably from a.
I bet he had to do no training for this film. Just hop on Xbox Live with the bros. Just play some Halo.
Dude, I literally was like thinking that. I'm like, I probably did play Xbox with this kid, and I just never knew. He probably was some like gamer tag I can look up right now. It's last online 10 years ago. I'm like, that's Timothy Chalamet.
We can keep. I would love to keep, complimenting this cast because they're really doing well on all this. And
These are tough roles. These are tough roles too, deceptively.
Yeah, they're not easy. And shout out to Matthew Perry for trying. He got all of his scenes got cut, but apparently Matthew Perry filmed a bunch of stuff for this as well as like a conservative talk show host. I would have loved to have seen that. Please release that footage.
I didn't know that actually.
Oh, and Rob Morgan. Anyway. Rob Morgan as Dr. Teddy. I thought he was great. Go on. Sorry, I just wanted to get him in because we kind of just.
But I think Timothy Chalamet is actually the crux of the matter here for me, which not his character even, just what his character represents in terms of the film message as a whole. Because Timothy Chalamet's character comes in like the last act, I think, or like the last third of the movie about.
Near like the midway point, last half of the midway point. Like, yeah.
And like, he's actually winds up being great. Like his character is so much fun, and he brought surprisingly a lot of fun, and then later like so much brevity too towards the end too. I'm like, what the hell is with this character? And it's a good character and it's fun, but it almost works. It's like it represents what this like the identity crisis of what this movie is trying to be, which is either the problem is either too much heart and not enough satire, or the opposite. And it's like I wonder if this could.
I kind of back that.
Yeah, and I wonder if Adam McKay either shot himself in the foot from the very first screenplay, or maybe he just couldn't pull off what he was trying to do. Unfortunately, at least in terms of trying to get a 4 out of 4 star rating from the illustrious Sleepless with Steve from me. But yeah, it's really hard to say because again, and maybe it's getting unfair to the point where I keep comparing this movie to Idiocracy and Dr. Strangelove, but I ain't the only one who's doing that. It's such a such a comprehensive satire too that I don't think I'm overusing the comparison too much. So it's frustrating. But I will say, and getting back to what I hinted at earlier, which was the result of this movie is that surprisingly a lot of people now are talking about are learning what a great satire can be.
Yes.
And also climate change. I was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, maybe this is a bigger deal than I thought it was. And it's like, yeah, climate change, I guess, is a lot like an asteroid about to hit the Earth. And it's,
somewhere Leonardo DiCaprio just heard us saying that in the vast void of like the world. He went, oh, thank God.
Dude, when he had the freak out moment towards the end, I was like, this is literally just him every week of his life, because he does a lot of environmental stuff.
He does
a lot of climate change work. Like probably one of the most in terms of the celebrity world. And it's like, I bet you he didn't even like have lines. It's just the typical Leo agenda in the script.
He's like, McKay, I don't have anything here. Hey, I don't think climate change is real. You what?
Exactly.
He probably told an extra. McKay probably told an extra or whatever. Be like, hey, go up to Leo and tell him that you're doing this movie for the check. You don't believe in climate change. Go tell Leo that.
Let me say this: if you believe that Don't Look Up is like a mind-blowing movie, awesome. You are exactly the target audience here, and McKay has done his job. This movie, for the at the very least, just on its message alone, it is doing its job very well right now in the cultural, hurricane that is, the internet and the zeitgeist and all that stupid shit. I am very happy. At the very least, that's what this movie is accomplishing. And if you are loving this movie, love what it represents, please watch Idiocracy And please watch Strangeglove and watch all sorts of great satires out there.
And please help the Earth.
No, just say it.
I said, please help the Earth too.
Yes, please actually do some good work out there. Do some politics.
I just checked really quickly. Sadly, Idiocracy and Dr. Strangelove are not streaming anywhere with a subscription.
Yeah.
Sadly, because I mean,
been...
that's why DVDs matter, but that's neither here nor there. But because I have the Idiocracy DVD over here, actually.
Idiocracy has actually had a really good resurgence, just a steady upward trend, particularly after 2016. And
it's great to see. I'm happy
on the internet too,
because and like I said, I go back to it. Mike Judge got categorically screwed with that movie. Like, and it sucks too, because like a lot of this happens with a lot of Mike Judge things that aren't Beavis and Butthead or King of the Hill. His Fox animated sitcom wasn't given a leg to stand on. The Good Family, Extract didn't do very well with Jason Bateman and Mila Kunis, and that was a better movie than people gave it credit for. So I'm really happy. Idiocracy has become like one of the I mean three things: King of the Hill, Beavis, and Idiocracy. Mike Judge. Like it's and I would have never have guessed that back when it came out.
Its comedy has not aged. I truly believe that Idiocracy has not aged at all. Just because it's so slapstick and so over the top, beyond into the space ridiculous, that it's hardly ever going to age. And even it's some of that risque use of the R word and the F slur, the movie actually justifies it because it's a world of idiots. So of course they're gonna be the most vulgar, considerate people on Earth, because
go tell that to the dozen or so people on the internet that are that just because a movie features something doesn't mean it condones it. Like, if I have to hear one more gripe, about
licorice pizza
with licorice pizza being pedophilic, like I swear to God, like.
I haven't seen
it yet, but every time I hear that, I'm just like, man, I know Steve's somewhere like losing his mind right now.
Steve off 2022, man. That's another discourse, and it's only like 14 people that are pissed off at the end of the day because they haven't seen it. But
it's on a list of things that piss me off because people haven't actually seen the piece of art is Idiocracy using language, bad language, and Cloud Atlas for using yellowface. For having those characters be Korean, and it's like that's the point. They have a white woman, they have an Asian woman be a white ginger. They have the Arbiter from Halo 2 be an Asian person. Like it's so obvious that it's not even a controversy. The hell up.
There's a stark difference between what Cloud Atlas did versus what like Ghost in the Shell did.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's a stark contrast between those two. But back to Don't Look Up, though. Back to Don't Look Up. And that's the thing. And like, I feel like this is going to be a recurring issue with if McKay continues down this direction, which for all intents and purposes, it's made him a lot of money and it's given him a whole new career life. Not that he was struggling before this by any means, in terms of notoriety.
Let me interrupt and just say, if he's doing this stuff from what he was doing with Will Ferrell before, it's like, hey, step up, 100% improvement. And even if it's flawed in some deep levels, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and this is going to be the thing, though, with like Adam McKay, is that like, and I think he's established this with 3 movies of this breed, is that he's going to be like, he's going to dial it up to 11. He's going to dial it up to 11, and where it might be privy for the story to do less, he will do more. Like Mark Rylance's character, Joe brought him up very early in the review. Mark Rylance's character, I get why you have it, because the people like there's like Elon Musk and stuff like I thought of like Elon. I know he's kind of like a Zuckerberg. I think you could subscribe pretty much any of these callous billionaires to him. But shout out Ty Warner. I read a big think piece on him today. But moreover, though, is that like you subscribe pretty much any billionaire to him. But like, I really think you could have left him out. Like, having watched the movie, I think you could have left him out and mortgaged 20 minutes of this thing. If this thing was tighter, I think the haphazard way that it kind of handles comedy and drama and waffling between comedy, drama, disaster, satire,
yes,
genuine, positioning of characters and certain events and certain scenes. I think if you would have written Rylance out of this movie, I think if you would have written him out of it to no fault of his own, I think you'd have a tighter production. And I think that's what's missing from this movie. It's kind of the same thing there's a few things missing from Vice, but Vice was also missing the tightness of The Big Short. And this one doesn't have that same tightness. But at this point, I don't think I think this is McKay's style that he is going to run with.
Yeah.
I don't think there's changing that.
It's funny because Rylance's character actually had the biggest laugh from me, which is when he's describing his plans to take on the meteor. But then he just somehow, Rylance, clever bastard, he starts going into like such flowery language about the angels coming down from the heavens naked and extracting treasure from, like, it's such poetic language, and then the scene just cuts and it's like, so they didn't like check any of the work. It's like, no. It's like, okay, sure. But yeah, it's
and it might just be my own fatigue, like, and I get that it's like an indispensable part of the culture, but I'm also kind of getting a little fatigued by like these tech billionaires as villains, as just the overarching villains.
Too. Yeah,
it's starting to become an annoying trope, and I really started to get tired of it. I know it just came out like 2-3 months ago, but I really started to get really bothered by it with that animated movie that Ron's Gone Wrong. Like,
I thought you were gonna say Mitchell's and the Machines, because that's when it kind of started bothering me too.
Mitchell's versus the Machines, I could agree with. There was so much to praise about that movie.
But at least it didn't focus on that. Like,
there was so much to praise about that movie, like that it really didn't bug me as much. But like, when a movie is lacking in other areas, or it's not as strong in some, that sort of stuff, that's when tropes really start to bug me.
Yeah.
And that's this tech billionaire villain shit is starting to run its course a little bit, unless somebody can write some life into it. And McKay, for all his creative juices though and stuff like that, I don't think he injects a lot of really originality to this sort of Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, whatever billionaire you want to subscribe to him.
You could literally throw a dart on a board full of them, and you could just be like, yeah, that's Mark Rylance's character, I guess.
Well, you know what? People will stop writing these guys as villains when they stop doing villainous shit.
That's true.
So, you know,
that's true. Yeah. All right. Fair enough.
It's
you
fair.
Got a point though.
No, that's a fair point as well. But we'll move into star ratings here before we bleed into Sleepless OT with a record low 2 topics. I honestly, I enjoyed this movie enough that I recommend it. I give it 3 out of 4 stars, if nothing else, for the conversation it elicits. And I think there's a lot to praise, I think, from the performers and a lot of different attributes that come together to make this movie work. It's not flawless. I think what it does though, and the maturation of McKay, at least insofar that he really seemed, maybe to a fault, as we talked about, because I think we were all kind of collectively bored, for lack of a better term, by sort of the cheating subplot. I think that he really did dive into his characters, at least in a way that the satire wasn't the main character. We're kind of late to make this argument here, but I mentioned it earlier. I would say there's satirical elements. I say this is a metaphor in a lot of ways, though. I would almost say this is a metaphor first kind of a movie. I don't lambaste anybody who uses satire because I don't think they're necessarily wrong, but I think this movie is more towards a metaphor. And I honestly, truthfully, going back to what I wrote in my review, stevepulaski.com, what I wrote in my review of this thing is that it reminded me a lot. I know it's about climate change, and it's a pretty good metaphor for climate change. It reminded me more with the pandemic.
Yeah.
Too. It reminded me more with the pandemic. And especially, I think it's when we reviewed A Quiet Place Part 2. I said, watching A Quiet Place Part 2 now, or watching A Quiet Place again, just makes me believe that if something like that happened, there would be people banging pots and pans in the street in effort to prove a point. And that's kind of the same emotion I felt with Don't Look Up in the same way.
Yeah.
I give it 3 out of 4 stars, though. I like a lot of this movie. I like just enough of this movie to really give it a recommendation. And I've been very intrigued just to hear, even the people a couple people that I know that didn't care for it. It's not a political thing. It's more of a handling, window dressing sort of thing, what they didn't like. I think the conversation this movie elicits is interesting in its own. It's a 3 out of 4 for me. What say you, Joe? And then Dom, you can send us home.
No, I mean, at the very end of the day, it is like, as uneven as this movie might be, the message here is the most important thing, and I think it delivers that part the best. That, you know, we should be aware of what we're doing and, like, you know, what's going on around us, and we should be more focused on it. We shouldn't have so many distractions in our life and everything. It's something like, when I remember, if you want to like talk about 2 years ago from this day when Australia was on fire and there were wildfires spreading throughout it, I did end up donating like some money to help with like the fire care there. And one of my friends went, well, why do you care so much? And I'm like, dude, it's our fucking planet. Like, we got to do something. If this is happening in Australia, who's to say it's not going to happen in America? Long and behold, look what California and like that whole West Coast had to deal with for like a period of time, and still is dealing with the fallout of it as well. When we had those mass fires back, whenever the hell that was going on, because I've lost the track of time at this point. It did remind me a lot of like what's happening today with the pandemic. And how people are acting and everything. And it does remind me, of course, what McKay was aiming for, which was climate change. It's a great message, an uneven film, but a good one nonetheless. There are some great performances. There is some great humor, and there's some great meta stuff here. Like I said, the meme part of this movie, I'm like, damn, McKay nailed that perfectly. The only thing I will say is that if you do end up watching this movie, whether you like it or you don't, skip the credits. Do not watch the stinger at the end, because I thought both stingers were stupid and undermined the very gut-punching ending.
The stingers aren't worth it.
Yeah. The ending to this movie is a gut punch, and I think it really sells the movie. The stinger will undermine that if you watch it. Just don't.
The stingers do it no favors, and I knew they were coming too, because this movie's like 17 minutes of credits.
Yeah, I was like, when the movie like officially ended, I was like, wait, we have like 20 more minutes left. Is it really just 20 minutes? Oh my God.
Yeah, like I was stunned. I mean, because usually it's like, usually 10 minutes for like if there's a lot of CGI in it as credits. But like, I'm like, damn, this thing's set like 16 minutes of credits. That's not being hyperbolic.
Yeah, Marvel movies have shorter credits and they have their stingers.
Did I miss your star rating? What'd you say?
3.
3 out of 4 stars. Dom, you're going to send us home.
Oh, okay. Yeah. 3 out of 4 for me, because while this film fails to reach, the 4-star, satire masterpieces, like I'll keep name dropping these names until people watch these damn movies, Idiocracy and Strange Glove. Not that they're hidden gems or anything too much, but at least in the popular consciousness, it does do a lot of great work in at least bringing the issues that seemingly should be obvious to a lot of people, not so obvious apparently. But you know what? I'm not even going to lambast it too much, because hey, that means the movie has done its job wonderfully, and it's got a lot of people talking, and hopefully that talk, while not all of it will turn into action, at least it will down the line in many in many hidden, subtle ways. And what an accomplishment as an artist to be able to do that. It just sucks that it winds up being a little more kind of neoliberal, very literally celebrity jam-packed, like, hey, yeah, the environment is not in a good place, as opposed to something that truly is poignant, truly is, it will make you, turn the screen off and make you think about your life for a good long while. But
I mean, I've talked to some people though that like had that reaction, that when this finished, it really made them go, "Oh my God, like what can I do?" And that's great. It's just, I know for us who are like, we've been watching films longer and look at it in a very different way than the average audience member. Yeah. I see what you're saying.
We're hoity-toity film fans, we got our heads up our own asses, so whatever. Yeah, exactly. So hey, you know what? If this movie was that for you, screw us, right? We can go to hell.
Yeah,
I always say that. I always that's always the unwritten disclaimer in most of my reviews, except for God's Not Dead, We the People.
Well, the people who are telling us to go to hell over that might just be going there.
Watch the apocalypse be the I'm sorry, Dom. You want to go ahead?
No, it's okay. I totally asked you for that riff. But
I started.
Yeah, dude. The 3 out of 4 stars. It's a damn good effort by McKay. Will we see more of just like that? Probably. But hey, you know what? Whatever. I'm cool with it. I'm down with it.
I think this could have been a hit too in theaters. It's a little upsetting. Yeah. It's a little upsetting that this landed on Netflix in a way, but like at the same time, I think more people more people I think would press play on it on Netflix and go to a theater.
Exactly. Actually, I like as much as I would love to have this come to theaters and like see this all on a big screen with how well this was actually done for the most part. I do think the reason why, it's getting as much access as it is because it came out. It was Netflix's Christmas Day movie. One hell of a Christmas Day movie to release, but
just in time for the in-laws to come over so you can fight with them.
Exactly. Oh, that's a great point. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I said. To quote my own self over here in the review of the movie, I said in my I think it's like the second paragraph or so, I even said too, in the opening minutes of the latest Netflix film, sure to incite some uncomfortable holiday discourse. Because that's what I thought of watching this. I'm like, man, dude, some family got like, was throwing the cranberry sauce.
I would look up.
You'd look up in an instant. No. I'm glad we're in agreement here, at least, for the most part on this thing. And that's going to be our last review for a couple of weeks now, because the next 2 weeks, we are doing a sort of an end of the year recap. Next week, we will be tackling our best films of 2021. Top 5, each of us. It'll probably be a little bit longer than normal show. We'll try and do it a little bit quicker than last year, just in so many words. But then the following week, what's today, the 5th? We got the 12th is going to be our top 5 favorites, each of us, so 15 total. And then our top 5 worst will be on January 19th. So we will have that. And then I believe, don't quote me, but I believe Scream is the next movie we'll be reviewing on the 26th. I believe Scream is the next one we'll be touching on. So, which I'm pretty pumped for. I'm going to rewatch all 4 of the movies before seeing that. So, but yeah, next week we got our top 5 favorites. My list drops on stevepulaski.com. My top 10 list drops on the January 10th. My worst list drops on the January 11th. So be on the lookout at stevepulaski.com for that. Highlights will be posted to this show on my website, as well as the YouTube channel on which you are currently watching. Once again, this is Sleepless with Steve. We come to you live and in living color every Wednesday evening. Wouldn't be where I am today without the inimitable Dominic Guanzon and the always studious and very, very capable hands of Joe Viso. Appreciate you, both of you gentlemen. Happy New Year to everyone as well. Happy 2022. Let's try to make this year not suck like the last two in so many ways. For Dominic, Joe, and myself, yours truly, this has been Sleepless with Steve.